Women and business are uniquely linked to Route 66 in Joplin, and we are celebrating both. I'm Lisa Oligas, and you're watching Newsmakers. March is Women's History Month, and this is also the year we celebrate the 100th anniversary of Route 66. Thanks to historic Murfreesburg Preservation Group, we are learning the stories of two women connected to eateries where travelers got their kicks on Joplin's Route 66, Mr. Swiss and Max Bakery. Joining us to begin our conversation are Marianne Phillips and Paula Callahan with historic Mr. Murfreesburg Preservation. Ladies, thanks for bringing these stories to us. This is great.
We love Women's History Month.
So before we dive into the women's histories, we know Route 66 originally ran through neighborhoods, including at Broadway and Easttown. Then at some point, it was realigned with 7th Street. Was Route 66 in Joplin a popular place for small businesses?
Oh yes, my husband said that there were many hamburger joints even on 7th, between 7th and Maiden Lane and Range Line and going clear to Schifferdecker. So yeah, it was quite the place to have your best in hamburger places.
Yeah. So Paula, tell us where these two businesses were located, because they're very close to each other, correct?
Yeah, they're on the corner of 7th and Sargent.
So both of them were there, and
yes.
Of course, one is still there, or they're both still there?
That's what kind of makes them important. They're both still standing.
Yeah.
A lot of what those hamburger joints and little motor lodges, they're all gone now. So we don't have any of that to celebrate on Route 66.
Yeah. Well, let's begin with the family that brought Mr. Swiss to Joplin. Now, first, what kind of restaurant was Mr. Swiss?
Hamburgers, ice cream, spaghetti red, comfort food. You could go in, you could eat inside and just eat, as a dinner. Take your family in, sit down, have dinner, or grab it to go and take some ice cream with you when you left.
Yeah. So Mr. Swiss restaurants were located all along Route 66 and other towns too, Marianne. Where else were they located?
Right. They're in Lebanon, Rolla, Springfield, Webb City. Webb City counts, yeah.
Yeah, you bet.
Goes through there, and then two in Oklahoma also.
All right, so this draws our focus to Emma Sue Leatherwood Hills. She was actually connected to another local business even before Mr. Swiss. So tell us about Meeker Leather, which is where Emma Sue actually met her husband before they got into the restaurant business.
Well, Meeker was also on Route 66 on East 7th Street, and she worked there for quite a while, and Hugh did too, and he actually became a supervisor, so he supervised Emma also. But he enamored himself with the president, which is Freeman R. Johnson, and a lot of Joplinites will recognize that name because he became very wealthy, Mr. Johnson did, and now that you can get grant money, nonprofits apply for grant money from him. But he gave Hugh, in his will, he gave him garden tools and a substantial amount of money. And so part of that, I believe, was used to pay for Mr. Swiss franchise.
So Hugh Hill and Emma Sue Hill, that's the couple. So how important was their relationship with the owner of Meeker, Freeman Johnson? He gave them this money, so that really kind of catapulted them into wanting to do whatever they wanted with the business?
Well, I think they would have done it anyway.
I think Hugh did a lot of things for Mr. Freeman. He was kind of a right-hand man. He helped him with his lawn work. And I think Hugh kind of considered him like a father figure. So I think they were more than just business partners. I think they were very close.
So how did the Hills then come to own Mr. Swiss?
It was actually the nephew that started, Emma's nephew. So,
well, Emma's nephew came to the family and asked for some help to buy Mr. Swiss. He wanted to give it a go. He wasn't a very good business manager and found himself in trouble, and had some debtors, some suppliers that he owed money to. So Hugh and Emma Sue decided they would take over the business. They went to the debtors, told them they would be paid back in full, and they were. And for the next 20 years, they flipped hamburgers and made spaghetti red.
So was it truly a family business with mom, dad's kids working in it?
Oh, the whole family worked there. Emma Sue and Hugh, the oldest daughter, Connie, then Kathy, then Tom.
Wow. So, and you knew Emma Sue?
Yes.
So tell us about her. What drove her? What kind of person was she?
She was just a hardworking person. She grew up, had to get a job early in life because her father had passed away, and she had to help the family. So she was used to hard work, but she was very poised and very elegant and just a very lovely, kind person.
Excellent.
Hardworking.
So they actually opened more than one. They opened a Mr. Swiss on Range Line, which put Emma Sue into supervisor mode at the 7th Street store. How significant was that for a woman to be in charge of the business, ladies? I mean, we don't think about, they always say there was a glass ceiling, but actually at that time it was really early on.
I think Emma Sue was always in charge. I think she was in charge of both. I mean, he was a very hardworking person too, but Emma Sue kind of kept him in line a little bit. She kept him on, what I mean by that is he loved to give food away, and he was so generous, and she had to be on top of him. Now, this is a business. We have to act like a business.
But how kind of them, and they were actually a business that supported the community. Tell me how the Hills supported athletics as well, right?
I was very surprised when I was doing some research that they sponsored a lot of softball teams and bowling teams. And back then, in the 70s, that was the name of your team, Mr. Swiss. Or it could have been Eagle Pitcher, or the Ford dealership or whatever. But yeah, so he had his name in a lot of the young and, well, an adult too, bowling teams.
So, I mean, that makes them very community connected. Emma Sue's daughter apparently told you guys a story about their generosity with kids. So can you share that story with us? How did that happen?
Well, like I said, Hugh was very, very generous. And when kids came in to buy a hamburger or whatever they were going to buy, as they walked out the door, he handed them a sack. He says, "Go over to that case and fill it up full of ice cream."
So they didn't sell much ice cream.
Yeah,
they gave a lot of it away.
They gave a lot of it away. And he was so generous and kind.
How long did Mr. Swiss stay open in Joplin?
Well, I think it was
Till 1987. So they ran from 67 to 87.
And then Mr. Swiss turned into some other kind of restaurant on
Well,
Route 66.
I'm including when Mr. Swiss went, the franchise just went out of business, and so Hugh just changed the name to Hillbilly Hills. So Mr. Swiss and Hillbilly were there from 1967 to 1987.
Okay. So, and is the building is still there?
Yes, it's still there.
And what about Emma Sue?
She passed away. She passed away before Hugh did.
Her husband lived quite a bit longer.
Yes, he lived to be 99.
Wow. So why is it important that we think about Emma Sue in this role and honor that legacy?
There's always that expression about the woman behind the man. Well, in our case, it's the woman behind the counter. The woman behind the ledger books, the woman behind the supervising. And the employees and making your kids come to work.
And Paul, you said you went there to Mr. Swiss.
Yes.
Did you enjoy it? What was it like? You said you shared it with family.
Oh, yes, we enjoyed it. We loved going there. We'd go after school. I'd take the kids there after school, as my kids were growing up. And, I had a busy day. I would run by and get spaghetti red, take it home. So it was iconic, and it's interesting how many people I didn't realize worked there. He hired college kids a lot, and so and constantly running. People said, "Yeah, I worked there the summer of da da da. I worked there the summer of da da da." I was in college.
You mentioned spaghetti red, so there's another famous spaghetti red, which is Fred and Red's. I mean, did that recipe not catch on, or did it just kind of disappear?
They all had their own. Hugh's recipe was different from what Fred and Red's had. Hughes wasn't quite as greasy, shall we say?
Yeah.
I'm from Kansas City, and so when I first moved to Joplin in '95, I'm like, why is everybody talking about spaghetti red? What is that? Is it spaghetti red? Spaghetti sauce. And so it took me a while to figure out what everybody was talking about.
I mean, you include in your kind of publicity about this, about Fred and Red's being sort of another one of those Route 66 adjacent kind of restaurants.
Yeah, it's also on the route. And later when you get to talk about Max Bakery, Fred and Red's actually bought their pies from Max Bakery.
All right, well, that cues us. We're going to take a break, ladies.
Okay.
And when we come back, we learn about another business with a legacy on Route 66. Yes, Max Bakery. We'll be right back.
I learn best by doing.
I enjoy helping others.
I want to leave my mark.
Here, I discovered what I can do and who I can become.
What begins on this campus moves into studios, hospitals, and communities around the globe.
This is Missouri Southern State University.
Explore boldly.
Care deeply.
Impact globally.
One expanded mission built with lion pride.
Save the date, March 30th, for a council candidate forum. I'm Lisa Oligas. Get to know the candidates seeking seats on the Joplin City Council. 6 people are vying for 3 general council seats with 4-year terms. 2 others are running unopposed. We'll pose questions on issues impacting the community. Learn where the candidates stand at a council candidate forum Monday, March 30th at 6 p.m. at Joplin City Hall. Be an informed voter.
The corner of South and Sargent is home to 2 idol buildings which once bustled with business by those traveling Route 66. This one, with its A-frame architecture, was a restaurant called Mr. Swiss, its shape identical to others in the franchise chain across the region. Mr. Swiss was operated by Emma Sue Leatherwood Hills and her husband Hugh Hills. They ran the business for 20 years after taking it over from a nephew. The other idol building on the opposite corner was once home to Mac's Bakery. It started as a pie shop in the early 1950s. It became a trusted provider of all kinds of sweet treats created by Dorothy Anna Butler Peck, who had loyal customers.
Just feeling as though they had a wonderful product and Mom had made some wonderful recipes, and people would say, you're coming back, you'll be here. And I think she was very faithful and very for the people that loved and treated her so well.
Like all her siblings, Michelle worked at the bakery and has fond memories.
Oh, I loved anything that had to do with the cooking and the baking was always better than dishes or making coffee. But I didn't mind waiting on the people either, but I really enjoyed jumping in and making Mom's frosting or icing or whatever she needed. I enjoyed doing that a lot. And I did cakes sometimes too.
Bakery was the source of sweet stuff, and Mr. Swiss across the street the source of savory. While Hugh Hills opened a second Mr. Swiss on Rangeline, Emma Sue was here and running the business with her children Connie, Kathy, and Tom. And the working teens felt at home at both.
Yes, because we were next door to each other. That was a period of time where they would come to our place for something sweet on occasion, and we'd always go over for a hamburger or a spaghetti red. And I do believe that Terry, which is the predecessor of Mom, and she was the next strong woman for Mac's Bakery, was very good friends with Connie Hill, and they went to school together. They were best friends, I believe, in junior high.
Dorothy and Wally Peck retired in 1984. Terry and her husband Robert Holgate then ran Mac's Bakery until 2008, when it permanently closed. Mr. Swiss later became Hillbilly Hills Restaurant and closed in 1987, and Emma Sue Hills passed away in 2007. Mementos and photos from Mr. Swiss were blown away by the 2011 Joplin tornado that Hugh survived by sheltering in a bedroom closet. His home took a beating, which he showed to then-President Barack Obama. Dorothy Peck survived it too, and the generosity she often showed by giving away donuts at the bakery, because she made fresh every day, was evident in the tornado's aftermath.
Mom knew that she needed to be in charge sometimes. She just needed to be. And I know that when the tornado came in Joplin, she was a great example of stepping up, and even at being almost 90 years old, I don't think she was quite there. When the tornado hit, she lived directly behind Walmart, and the whole apartments back there were obliterated, except her apartment. She had the only apartment in the whole place that only lost a dish from the wall. The rest of it was intact. And so everyone that was bleeding and everyone that was hurt and crippled or whatever it was that happened because of the awful disaster, she invited them into her house. And while they were in there, she would cover their wounds, bandage them, cover them with blankets. She used every single one of her towels. She used her couch just to comfort the people.
Dorothy Peck, fearless, faithful, and friendly, and Emma Sue Hill, women who helped shape businesses on the Mother Road, Route 66.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are shining a light on female business operators along Route 66 in Joplin with help from Historic Murfreesburg Preservation. In this segment, we will hear about growing up at Mac's Bakery and matriarch Dorothy Ona Butler Peck. Joining our conversation is her daughter, Michelle Peck Endicott. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And returning our Mary Ann Phillips and Paula Callahan with Historic Murfreesburg Preservation. Michelle, we're so glad you're here and you could join us for this. The bakery got its name from an earlier owner and started as the pie shop. Marianne, tell us about who the first Mac was, historically speaking.
Well, I wish I knew his first name, but they just said it was Mr. Mac Linden.
Okay.
Do you remember his first name?
Let's see, that one was O.F.
So he went by initials.
Yeah.
He went by O.F., I
Yes.
do believe.
O.F. McClendon. So, Michelle, your parents bought the pie shop in 1957.
Correct.
Was your mom always into baking?
My mother is a fantastic baker. In fact, if I backed up just a little bit and I said, my dad wanted something different in life. He had been in a bad, he'd always been a businessman, and he always took care of the house. Mom was at home. But one day he said, I don't like the ethics of where I work. I don't like the moral values. I want to do something else. And he had a business degree. And so he said, Dorothy, what do you think about starting a business? And he specifically brought up a bakery. And he said, you're a fantastic baker. You make the best pies. Why don't we look into this? And Mom jumped on board and soared ever since.
Never looked back, yes.
Never looked back.
Well, you are one of 6 kids.
Correct.
What was it like growing up in and around a bakery? I'd be in a hog heaven.
Well, my mom believed that everybody should have an opportunity to go to a candy store or a bakery and get anything they want anytime they want when they're kids.
Yeah.
And so it was wonderful. We just ate whatever we wanted and enjoyed it every day and
Wow.
shared with all our friends.
So you all worked there.
We did.
So talk about what it is like. I mean, did you have a favorite task to do? I mean, what was your role?
We waited on customers, but we did a lot of other things. I did a lot of. Dad would say, "Would you make whatever it was, maple frosting, whatever it was?" But Mom's special job was for Mom, we would cut off the top of the cakes, and we would prepare all what she needed in order to get her started for the day. Mom was off and running, and we did whatever we could to kind of get her head start for the mornings.
Looking back, did you ever say, how did Mom do it all? Baking cake, decorating. She managed the books and things too?
She did everything. Mom was, she was the driving force between the two of them, I would say. Dad was in full agreement most often. Sometimes he would say, Dorothy, let's think about it. They would talk about it and make a decision. But most of the time, Mom kind of had a drive within her. And she would say, what do you think about this? Let's try to do this. But specifically, we would laugh because Mom was in charge of the books. She was always in charge of the money. And she never left the money there at the bakery. She never left it there. And so instead, she would put it in her purse. She would do the books for the day in her purse and put it in one of the white sacks, donut sacks, and she would put all the tally for the day and she'd wind them up and put them all in her purse. And she ended up by the end of the week with 6 days worth of money in her purse every single week. Anyone could have mugged her, anyone could have grabbed it, and she'd walk down the road with this big old heavy thing on her arm. But that's how we did it. And then on Sunday, we would sit as a family and we would count the money and put it in wrappers and get ready for the next week.
Wow, that's amazing. Most people would think, yum, dessert all the time. Did you get to take it home with you? Did you get to eat what you wanted?
We ate what we wanted, and I don't think any of us ever really got tired of it. We would, we might like a maple bar this week, and this week we wanted an apple fritter. Whatever it was, we really didn't get tired of it.
But you said your mom didn't make cookies at home.
No, my mother, I never remember a single time in my entire life that Mother ever made cookies at our home. She'd make a cake on Sunday when we'd have family get-togethers, and we always had pie for Thanksgiving, but never, ever did she bake a cookie at home.
Wow. I bet, was somebody jealous about that? Like, oh, I wish we had
She would say, if you want a cookie, go to the bakery.
Easy enough. Dorothy is said to have been very generous. What stories do you remember about her being generous at the bakery?
Mom
and Dad.
We dealt with a very, well, as any business does, a unique group of people. You had people that had lots of money, a lot of affluence within the community, and they got along with Mom, and Mom would deal with them the same as those that may not be so lucky with their luck.
Right.
There were many times that Mom would go to the doors, usually at the back of the shop, and she would give them donuts or coffee, or sometimes it was a wrap to put on. Whatever it took so that they felt needed and appreciated, everyone was treated the same.
That's awesome.
It was.
So the recipes are big secrets, right? Not shared in a recipe book, but you still have them within the family?
We do. We have them written down. It was interesting that when my parents started the bakery, the recipes were semi-written down. So not
They
all
were-
of the
they were up in
ingredients
your
were
mom's
added.
head?
They were up there, and we knew what they were. But over the years, we do. We have some wonderful recipes. Specifically, we had a cake frosting that everybody wanted, and they wanted the cookie recipe that we decorated during the holiday time. But they're still with my sister Terry.
And so Terry and her husband took over the
That
bakery
is
from your
correct.
mom?
My parents, they retired. Terry and Robert came to be a part of it about '83 and took over completely in '84. And yes, that's exactly
So
right.
she owns the recipe.
She owns the recipes. You talk to her nicely, you might be able to get something one day.
So Paula, tell us, Route 66 had lots of mom and pop bakeries. What made Mac's stand out, and be such a big part of people's memories? Because they do remember Mac's Bakery.
Yeah, it was so iconic. Both places were, I think, because they were just they were fresh. Both restaurants made fresh food every day. They were consistently good. And honestly, I don't know if they realized how important it was to be on Route 66. I think they just were, doing, an opportunity for a business. Did your folks realize?
I actually know the answer to that. Dad said that many years ago, whenever they were discussing where they were going to have the bakery, Mom said, why don't we do it on Route 66? That's where all the big businesses are. It's where the factories are. And they want to come in for a cup of coffee and a donut. It's a great place to start. And that's where they chose. And they were there. At least two of the businesses that they had, two of the different bakeries, one was at 7th and Maiden Lane, and then one was at 7th and Sargent. They had several throughout the years, but Mom said, let's scale back just a little bit. It's a little lot. A little lot going on. So.
Yeah. So people probably assumed that your dad was Mac. Was he okay with being called Mac?
Absolutely. When he started the business, the bakery had already been flourishing. It had been here in Joplin, I'm going to guess since +47. It started with a gentleman that had it for 7 years, and then the next one had it for 3. And the first one's last name was McClintock.
McClendon.
I have to think about it just for a moment. And because of that, it just kind of passed down. And Dad was very honored to be Mac. And Mom loved being Mac's wife.
Even though there really wasn't a Mac.
There was no Mrs. Mac. No, she was Dorothy.
So never wanted to change the name.
No, originally I think Dad thought about it, but he really couldn't come up with anything. And he said, why suffer a brand new business when we've got one that's already gotten off the ground?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say is your mom's best attribute, best business quality that she had?
Well, I think that Mom was a good leader because she wasn't afraid to get in the trenches and work with those people that worked with her, and they respected her for that. You didn't get the end of the day and she goes, hey ladies, or hey gentlemen, thanks for doing a great job today, I'll see you tomorrow. She waited until the very last chore was done, and she never left until that was done too. Wow. And I think that was probably, she had integrity and she had ethics. She just believed that you treat people well and they'll treat you well.
And I mean, did any of the kids ever say, I don't know if I want to work at the bakery?
Yeah, every one of us.
But you did.
But we all did. We all did. We all, especially, in the beginning it was a pie bakery. So my 4 older siblings were all part of the pie bakery. We were more, my younger sister and I were more a part of the donut shop and the cake part of it. And so that's what we did. But I can remember thinking, oh, please, don't do this, don't do this. And now I would love to have it back open again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Marianne, why is it so important to honor and pay tribute to women like Dorothy and Emma Sue?
Well, the women's stories are just hard to find and hard to dig out. There, a lot of them it's oral history, and so we talk about the restaurants and the hotels on Route 66, but you've got to know about the people behind it. Why were they successful? Why were they there?
And it is interesting to learn that they did pick it because it was Route 66.
Yes.
So it's even
That's
more
exactly
important
right.
to say that. We've been talking about being part of Route 66. Do you have any memories of that era that stand out to you, being in a time of Route 66 kind of in its heyday?
I did not live here at the time. I lived in Kansas City, but I loved the song. And so, and every time I would come to Joplin on business or pleasure, you know, or even passing through, I just felt like it was so important, you know, that they did a song about Joplin and Route 66.
Paula, do you feel like there was a vibe that was definitely Route 66 in those businesses?
Oh, I do. I mean, it was kind of the drag for kids. They drug down to Kellers, drug back to Main Street. It was definitely a vibe.
Yeah. Michelle, was it just a business, or do you feel like it was more than a business in those days? Was it a hangout?
It was your whole world. It tugs at your heartstrings. You know, we had good days, we had bad days, but we were a family. And that was the most important thing for my parents, is that we were a family. And mom had the ability to make it soothing and comforting. Even on the days you didn't want to be there, you were grateful because you had a woman that was just stand up. And it was hard. It wasn't hard to be her daughter. It wasn't hard at all, but you were proud. You were extremely proud of what she stood for and who she was.
Marianne, you mentioned a lot of women's stories aren't told, and it seems like there are a lot of women who would have run businesses that were restaurants. Why is it that we need to dig these up? I mean, you know, why aren't they told? I mean, because we always hear about there was maybe a glass ceiling, but really women were doing a lot of the work.
Oh, they were doing the work, yeah, but I guess the men were getting the glory, especially with the name of Mac. You know?
Talk to me about, I mean, women in businesses and how this makes a difference, you know, recognizing them.
Well, it teaches young girls growing up, you know, you can do whatever you want.
And Paula, you said these businesses were kind of at the door to Murfreesburg. What's the connection to Murfreesburg?
Well, Murfreesburg wasn't really known at that point in time. It came along later. It's always been Murfreesburg geographically, but it wasn't coined that till 1998 after these. So we feel like it's a gateway. We call that the gateway to Murfreesburg. We're pretty proud of that corner.
We call
these two businesses right at 7th and Sargent.
Yeah.
So you consider that sort of the entryway.
Yeah, because Murfreesburg goes from 7th to 1st on Sargent and Moffett. And in fact, one of the first, the first vice president of the Missouri Route 66 Association was Mr. Spiva, and his house is just a couple houses away from 7th and Sargent.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, you know, we consider ourselves a complementary corridor to Route 66.
And I have a feeling Mr. Spiva had something to do with Route 66 becoming Route 66.
Oh yeah,
Naming it, the numbers.
Yeah, he'd go back and forth to Springfield a lot for all the meetings and stuff. But then he'd also go to Albuquerque, New Mexico for Route 66 meetings.
Awesome. Well, it's great history. We want to thank you all for connecting us to these stories of these strong women. Michelle, thank you for sharing all your family history and how exciting it is to hear about Mac's Bakery and, of course, Mr. Swiss and Emma Sue as well. Thank you, ladies, for sharing all this information.
Thank you for having us.
And that wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Thanks to our guest, and thank you for watching.